Is David Clowes selling Derby County? Is investment in the works already? Derby County fans have held these questions for the majority of this season, and with the arrival of John Eustace, that's another question which has been added to the list. John Eustace was asked why he decided to join Derby County, and he spoke about the exciting prospects of the future of this club, the potential of where this club could go, and in my personal opinion, this club at the moment is not a very exciting prospect. It has huge potential, but ultimately a lack of money, a lack of investment, ultimately it could cost this team its Championship League status by the end of this season. So for me, there must be something going on behind the scenes which John Eustace has been made privy to in order to get this deal across the line. Now obviously you can have your say, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments, but shall we talk about what I think? Now for me, Derby County are going to have something in the works. There's going to be interested parties talking to David Clowes and talking to those involved in Derby County about a potential deal over the course of this season. And for me, I think there's a lot of caveats to the deal. Will it be league dependent? Will it depend on the academy staying as Category 1? Is John Eustace one of the reasons why this investment may go through? Like, there's got to be some sort of caveats to this. Now, for me, I think a lot of buyers, they always want their own man in. And is John Eustace in that position? We talk about the back-in that David Clowes gave to Paul Warne just a few weeks ago before ultimately he was sacked last Friday. And is John Eustace coming in part of a potential new ownership structure? In my opinion, it possibly could be. I'm not going to sort of get my hopes up and sort of go, oh, well, investment must be coming because we've changed manager. I think Derby County needed to change manager anyway. Now, the big thing always was about funding a new manager, and Derby County have done that well in bringing in John Eustace for around £500,000. And is that going to have come from another party who've gone, well, we'll take over the club in the summer if you stay in the Championship, which has ultimately then led to John Eustace being appointed to give us that best possible opportunity? Now, the big question is always going to be, is there something in the works for Derby County about a potential takeover and something like that happening? Now, a lot of people will probably go, oh, well, of course there's going to be talks behind the scenes, but for me, I definitely think there is. You listen to the interviews that John Eustace did when he arrived at the club, and he spoke about the exciting potential of the club, the prospects of the club, and the 3 to 4 year plan, which may include a potential trip back down to League One. And I do think that something has to have been discussed behind the scenes about investment. Maybe even a potential new owner has spoke to John Eustace with David Clowes about what their plans are for the future, and if they're to take over, what they want to do with the squad and what they want to do with the training ground, with Pride Park and things like that, because there's a lot of things that can still be done with Derby County, and ultimately a lot of it does fall on unfortunately David Clowes stepping to one side and someone else coming in, because yes, David Clowes is rich, but he's not football rich, and that's a problem that we have. And ultimately a lot of people will look at it and go, he has the same sort of net worth as Mel Morris did when Mel Morris took over, but David Clowes, I would personally probably believe that a lot of his money is tied up in businesses elsewhere, obviously with Clowes Development and things like that, which ultimately then makes it harder for him to sort of spend those funds. And one thing you can't complain about under Mel Morris was lack of investment. There was too much investment, and that's something which we need to sort of see in the future. Not too much investment, obviously, but that extra investment that Derby County haven't seen. Now, if we look at Derby County's finances, the accounts and stuff, we're certainly not going to be at any risk of breaking FFP over the course of this season or next season, because we've spent less than what we've bought in. And obviously, yes, clubs are going to lose money naturally anyway with the academy and things like that, but that's something which sort of has to be addressed. FFP should not be an issue for Derby County, and obviously with any new potential owners, they can just fund to cover those losses anyway. We've seen it with the likes of Middlesbrough, where they put the losses into shares or something, so it takes it off the accounts, and we've seen other clubs do it as well with Watford in a multi-club model, selling players to Udinese and then bringing them back on loan straight away. So there is ways around FFP and things like that. Now, the big question that's going to be on a lot of people's lips is, will any investment be league dependent? Now, in my personal opinion, and this is something which I think Derby County should have done in the summer, and they probably did have a list of League One players for if we stayed down, Championship players if we went up. But I think there's going to be two deals on the table. If Derby County go down, this is what David Clowes is willing to give up. This is how much he wants, and this is the situation. If Derby County stay up, it'll obviously be a bigger amount of what he wants, and probably giving away a bigger percentage. And for me, I do think that league is going to have an impact on what ever happens with investment. Now, people are going to look at the likes of Wrexham, they're going to look at the likes of Birmingham, and they're going to go, well, you can get investment and still get relegated. And ultimately, that is true. You can. Now, Birmingham were bought when they were in the top 6 of the Championship. They weren't bought in the relegation zone or having just been relegated. Wrexham were bought when they were a nothing team in non-league, realistically. And ultimately, you can't really compare us to them right now, because we're not in a situation where I think Wrexham was bought for £3.5 million. I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm fairly sure it was £3.5 million. It was pocket change, essentially, to the people that bought Wrexham. And then Birmingham City was obviously a lot more than that. But the potential Birmingham City has, and you look at the money they've spent in League One, is tremendous. Like, they should win the League One at a canter, and they probably will do, and they'll probably then come up to the Championship and be straight in that promotion fight. Whereas Derby County never had that investment in League One, which ultimately meant this season was always going to be a relegation scrap, at best mid-table, and we've put ourselves in a shit position where it looks like it's going to be that relegation scrap. Now, us going down, if we don't have that investment, I think we're going to be down there for 4 or 5 years, because it's going to be a really big rebuild job, and John Eustace at the helm, I hope and pray that he will stay if we do go down. And I do think that investment will come in based on League One, but it's obviously going to be a different chunk of change than it would be if we were in the Championship. And the two ways this can go is League One, relegation League One, and be there for 3-4 years, or just stick it out in the Championship, and then in 2-3 years we could be pushing for playoffs. Like, there's the way this could go is unbelievably crazy. It's like you go back to the butterfly effect of the playoff final against Aston Villa. If we'd have started a Marriott or a Waghorn, would we have won that game? Would we then be in the position that Aston Villa are in? Because Mel Morris had potential owners lined up for when we went up, could have wiped our debts, and it would have just been such a different circumstance. We probably wouldn't be under a David Clowes ownership right now. We probably wouldn't be under a relegation battle in the Championship, and we certainly wouldn't have lost some of the players that we've lost over the course of the last 5-6 years when you look at those academy players that have moved on. So for me, it is obviously going to be league dependent, because the revenue in League One is much lower. The money spent in League One is obviously lower. So, and David Clowes' asking price is going to have to be lower for a League One club. Now, obviously, being without debt, probably one of the only clubs in the division without debt, probably one of the only clubs in English football without debt, is obviously a net positive for any potential owner. But it's something which is going to have to be discussed across the course of these teams who are potentially coming in to buy Derby County. And obviously we have no word on if any of these deals are being done, although some people seem to be talking about potential American ownership, which obviously I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think having a Hollywood owner, a bit like Wrexham and a bit like Birmingham, is such a bad thing. Having owners that are willing to fund the club, willing to boost the profile of the club in different countries, how can that be a bad thing, in my opinion? I don't personally believe it can. Obviously, Derby County is already a massive club, and it's going to be interesting to see how that would potentially grow under new owners. And is the academy going to be the forefront of the focus of any club that potentially comes in? Because I believe it should be, because you've got that Category 1 set up already. Utilise it, develop those players and use it. We had Cruz Allen on the bench at the weekend. You've got the likes of Niall McAndrew, Lennon Wilden, all begging for opportunities in the first team. And will they get them over the course of the next few weeks? You lot can have your say down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on a potential takeover down in the comments. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell, and I'll catch you in my next video.